Hi everyone, I'm Maria, digital consultant for the Civil Society program at Penn International. Throughout this video, I will guide you through the steps for building your social media strategy. Let's start. So why do we need social media? We live in the era of digital communications, and what that implies is that if you want your messages delivered to your target audiences and the broader public, you need to build your online presence on social media. However, in order to achieve that, you will need more than having social media accounts and create some posts here and there. You will need to create a robust social media strategy. What does this mean? So basically, it means that you make sure that all the content you create on social media adds up to the overall goals of the organization. For that, your social media strategy should be integrated with your overall communication strategy. Therefore, a good place to start when creating your social media strategy would be to ask yourself the role social media currently plays in your overall communications. I would like also to point out that you might develop a general or annual social media strategy, but also additional strategies for specific campaigns. Now we'll go together through the steps to develop your social media strategy. So first of all, you need to define your goals. To define your goals, you could use, for instance, the SMART goal framework, which says that each goal should be specific, measurable, so that you can actually track whether you achieve or not your goal, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Once you've decided about your goals, you should go to your social media platforms and choose there the right social media metrics to measure your goals. Here I want to introduce you to some examples that can probably resonate with the kind of work carried out by your centers. The first two goals could be medium long-term goals that you include in your annual social media strategy, while the two second goals could be more like short-term goals, for instance, for a specific campaign you run. In the first example, the general goal would be to reach potential young supporters and educate them on what you do and why. But this general goal could be translated into SMART goals. For instance, increase the percentage of young people reached on social media by 15%, or increase website traffic from social media platforms by 20%. And that's something you could actually check on Google Analytics if you have it installed on your website. You could check like how much of your website traffic is actually coming from social media platforms. In the second example, the general goal could be increased donations, and that could be translated into a SMART goal, like increase donations on website donation page from social media platforms by 10%. The third goal would be generally make a series of webinars a success, and the SMART goal, increase number of participants who register via social media by 30%. In the fourth example, the general goal would be to get politicians to support your cause. And in this case, I've translated it again into a SMART goal that is actually a short-term goal. Get at least 10 new decision makers on Twitter to support a specific statement on your website. Hopefully these goals will serve you as an example to set out the social media goals for your social media strategy. A second important decision you need to make is which social media platforms to use. Research which social media platforms are more likely to reach your target audience. Even if this is something quite context specific, there are general trends. For instance, people under 20 are usually more on Instagram than Facebook or Twitter. Or politicians are more likely to have a public profile on Twitter than on other social media platforms. So if you have limited time to spend on social media, it is crucial to choose carefully what social media platforms to use. The next step will be to build a consistent social media branding strategy. And what that means is that your messages are always in line with your organizational identity and values. When planning for branding strategy, you'll have to take into account two elements. On the one hand, we'll have to think about our visual branding, which consists mainly of the following elements: logo, fonts, colors, and handles. In the case of fonts and colors, it's not just about to use them on your logo, but you could also use them consistently in your images, graphics, and videos, and any other content you upload on social media. And that, over time, will allow people to recognize you without even seeing your logo or social media handle. Here you can see PEN's international social media platforms. This one here on the top is the Facebook page, and you can see how we're using the logo of PEN International in white against a black background. However, here on the Twitter account, the logo is in black and against a white background. What is really key is always use the same colors and then combine them in different ways. The second main element of your branding strategy is the voice and tone you use in your communications. It's important that you decide on your tone and stick to it whenever you communicate with your audience. And again, the tone in your communications should reflect your organizational identity and values. That said, while your tone may be more formal on other outlets, social media is a particularly good place to cultivate a personal voice that helps supporters feel connected to your mission and values. The next step will be to define your social content strategy. For that purpose, it will be helpful to measure the performance of past posts. Images, videos, engage and convey your messages to your audience in a way that is more direct and connects more with their emotions. Canva, as you can see here, have different templates for social media and could make very easy to create, for instance, a template image that you can reuse for sharing inspirational quotes, promoting a series of webinars, displaying facts and stats included in a report or piece of research, and so on and so forth. If you are intending to use third-party images without paying for them, you can be faced with two different situations. You can search for images on the internet with a license that allows you to use them for free, like for instance, Creative Commons. Creative Commons are a set of licenses that allow to do different things with an image. Some of them will allow you to use it for commercial purpose, some of them not. Some licenses ask you to also share the image you create with the same Creative Commons license, and most of them will also require you to attribute the image that you are using to its creator. The other situation you could be faced with is like you already have an image you want to use, but it has either a copyright license or you don't know its license. In that situation, what I would suggest is try to ask for permission from its owner. And if you actually can't reach its owner, it might be better just not to use it. And try instead going to platforms that have Creative Commons images or other licenses that allow you to use those pictures for free. When planning for content, it's also good to look for media hooks, as that will help to increase the interest and coverage from the media. Examples could be breaking news related to your cause, commemorative and international days. So for instance, PEN International use the Day of the Impression Writer every year to amplify their messages and their causes and to raise awareness about prosecuted writers. Another kind of content I would like you to have in mind are Instagram and Facebook stories, ephemeral content that disappear after 24 hours and create a sense of urgency. It's usually the lack of polish of Instagram and Facebook stories that makes it easier for people to identify with the content. Another well-known social media trend nowadays is live streaming. For example, you can stream a Zoom webinar on Facebook. This allows your participants to join via Zoom or viewers to watch and comment on Facebook Live. And here you can see an example of an Instagram story by PEN International. Stories run like a slideshow. It jumps from one image to the other one subsequently without stopping. Another thing to take into account is the potential of adding links to your posts, as they will allow your audience to take further actions, for instance, in your website. Posting frequency is also something you need to think about. So think how often, how many times a week you will be posting on each of your social media platforms. Taking into account the priorities are always to have time to manage your community, share good content, and measure impact. Again, monitoring the days and times which work best for previous posts will help you with this. This is again in line with the idea that constantly monitoring your impact will help you to improve your strategy. Social media platforms have inbuilt analytics that make monitoring easier and also provide you with further useful insights. For instance, Facebook and Instagram Insights show you when your followers are more active on their respective platforms. Something that I highly recommend is creating a social media calendar, as that will help you a lot to plan which specific posts and in which platforms you will be posting every day of the week. The next step will be to define your approach to interacting with your audience. Social media are not just broadcasting platforms. It's in general considered a good practice to respond to questions, comments, and posts tagging your organization. However, for issues that might affect your organization and based on past experiences, you might choose, for instance, to turn comments off. And here I want to introduce you to key elements that will help you to trigger interaction with your followers and audience. Regarding hashtags, you can do at least two different things. You can look for a hashtag that is trending on social media and use it on your own posts. This might give more visibility to your posts, as people who are not your followers but look for a specific hashtag on the platform will actually see your posts. Another option is when you are planning for a campaign, create your own hashtag and use it consistently across all your posts for that campaign. That will give your audience and followers the possibility to join the conversation and increase the visibility of your messages and your campaign. Another element you can use on your posts are mentions. Mentions are used to talk directly to a specific person, organization, politicians, or media outlet. Mentions are introduced by an ad and the name of a specific person, organization, or politician on the platform. You can use mentions, for instance, to raise awareness among your supporters or membership about a cause you are campaigning on. You can also use mentions to target policymakers on Twitter to let them know about your cause or to demand they take a specific political course of action or to ask them to support a statement on your website and so on. You can also target with your posts media outlets to make them aware of a specific breaking news regarding your cause. But apart from using hashtags and mentions on your posts, you might look for ways to increase engagement of your membership and advocates. If you are creating a social media account or increasing your presence on an existing one, you should let them know by using email, WhatsApp, or any other means. You might take one step further and write an email to your supporters and membership with pre-written messages, images, and other materials your supporters can share. If you are launching a campaign, you might also ask them to use the specific hashtag for that campaign along with the messages you provide them, and even post those messages at a specific time in case you want to be trending topic on Twitter. The next step, and very important one, is to lay down a risk mitigation plan. This will basically consist of two steps. The first step will be to analyze the potential risks associated with managing your social media in your context. Here I've included some examples of such risks, such as identity theft as a result of your account being hacked or online harassment for political reasons. A second step will be to lay down a mitigation plan for each of the risks you identified. One of the most common examples of such risks is phishing. In social media, there are numerous forms of phishing that can occur: impersonation, credential theft. So for that specific risk, the steps we could take would be, first of all, secure the account by resetting your password. In case you actually can't access your account, try to recover it through the means provided by the social media platform. And in the case you fail to recover your account through these means, you can then notify the social media platform about it. Regarding online harassment, I wanted to introduce you to the Online Harassment Field Manual by 10 America, which is a very useful resource that provides tactics and guidelines to prevent online harassment, strategies for response if online harassment is already happening, and also ways to take care of yourself and maintaining community engagement while this is happening. The last step to plan for your social media strategy will be to define how you will track and measure impact. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when you have your goals in place, you will have to go to your social media platforms and select the right social media metrics and, importantly, keep a record of them, for instance, using a spreadsheet. For every goal, you need a related metric. For Facebook and Instagram, you will find the main metrics in the Insight tab. And for Twitter and YouTube, you will navigate to their analytics tools. Most of these metrics can be found both as a summary of all your activity for a given period, but also in relation to individual posts. As I also previously mentioned, There are website analytics tools such as Google Analytics to track how many of the visitors on your website came from social media. If you're just starting with social media analytics and have a low budget, visiting these native analytics resources individually can be a good starting point. However, there are a myriad third-party analytics tools that can help you save time on manually creating reports and pulling together different networks' data. And now I will introduce you to the main metrics you will find on social networking platforms. Notice that the names of these metrics can vary from one channel to another. The first set of metrics include impressions and reach. If your goals are raising awareness of your work, you might want to use these metrics. People sometimes mistake these two metrics, but they are actually quite different. Reach is the total number of unique people who see your content, the unique viewers of your content, while impressions are the number of times your content is displayed. Engagement is about how much and how often people are interacting with your social media accounts, and will give you an idea of how many of your followers are actually real followers. You will find that for every network, there is some kind of engagement metric that is the total sum of smaller metrics such as likes, comments, and shares. But most social media will also provide you with these individual metrics. Here we can see a list of the main engagement metrics, including likes, comments, shares, retweets, and clicks. For individual posts, we can look for a metric called engagement rate. A high rate indicates that people find engaging and interesting the content on your post. I've also included a couple of additional metrics, which are mentions and hashtag performance. Mentions will indicate good brand awareness, and hashtag performance will give you an idea to what extent people engage with your campaign. Often looking at these metrics individually won't give you all the context you need to make decisions for your strategy. Therefore, most times you will be looking at a combination of metrics. For instance, a post that receives a lot of likes but no comments or shares is not always bad. The post intention could have been simply to present a beautiful image and a text. But if there was a call to action, like asking people to sign a petition on your website, then the lack of clicks on your post could mean a poorly performing text. Another example, if you have several goals such as increasing awareness and creating a community, you will need to look for a combination of both impressions and engagement. If a post has a high impressions count but a low engagement number, it will likely mean that your post was not interesting enough for people to take action after seeing it. Here you can see the insights dashboard of the Facebook page of Penn International with some of the metrics we talked about. Page likes, posts reach, stories reach, post engagement, and so on. A third type of common social media metrics that you can find on social media platforms are demographics such as gender, age, location, and language of your followers. And importantly, looking at these metrics will give you an indication whether you are succeeding at reaching out to your target audience. On the left side of this image, you can see where you need to go on Facebook Insights in order to find demographics for your followers. Unfortunately, Twitter don't include demographics on their analytics dashboard. There is one important metric called referrals, as it will allow you to know how many people landed on your website from social media. To track referrals, you will need a tool such as Google Analytics. On this image, you can see where you need to navigate within your Google Analytics account to look for referrals. In the center of the image, you can see a breakdown of the social media accounts we have in Penn International. And for each of the social media, you can see, for instance, the number of page views that happen as a result of people clicking on the links of Facebook posts, tweets, and so on. If you want to look at referrals more in detail, you can click on top of one of the social media accounts. In this case, I clicked on Facebook, and here you can see the URL of the specific website pages that were accessed from Facebook posts. And again, you can see, for instance, the number of page views that that specific URL on Facebook posts generated. And again, if you want to go one step further, you could use UTM tracking to track referrals for specific campaigns. The way to use UTM tracking is to add UTM parameters at the end of the URL you want to track. Here we have the URL of a page on Penn International's website. By adding UTM source, UTM medium, and UTM campaign, we will be able to check on Google Analytics whether a URL was accessed through social media in the context of a specific campaign. Hopefully now you'll have the knowledge and tools you need to start planning your social media strategy. Whether you are designing your general social media strategy or a strategy for a specific campaign, writing down all the decisions regarding the steps mentioned will be very useful. You can refer to this document whenever you need to. This will help you be consistent across all your social media communications. I'm also leaving you here some very useful resources on digital security and online harassment. The content in this presentation is mostly based on Sprout Social posts and guides. Thank you all for taking the time to learn how to build your social media strategy to increase the impact of your communications.